Hi, Renee.
There we go.
Hello, sorry about that. I am so sorry. I've been trying to get my friend off the phone for the last 15 minutes, but she's a talker. So but I had forgotten all about it being Wednesday. So thanks for the reminder.
Hard to tell the days during the summer.
Very true.
And I had a slow computer startup, so you are not too late. I just got everything set up. So we should be good, hopefully, without any issues to get started. All right, so we are still going to be dealing with episode 4 from season 5 because we didn't meet last time. Um, so we're gonna jump into that one again.
Oh, so I didn't miss last week then.
Nope.
You didn't do one anyway?
Nope. If there's only going to be one person, it's kind of awkward to ask Emma questions and we'll sit around
Oh,
to answer.
oh, sorry about that.
Fine, I understand. Things come up, sort of thing.
Yep.
So yeah, if it
That's
ever,
just how it's going to be with me and you.
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes we do get other people, so we always stick around till about 7:15 ish, and then we say that's the cutoff. If no one shows up other than Emma, I usually say we'll just do it again next week.
Sounds good.
Oh, all right, but we're going to be on episode 4. So it's been a week since I watched the episode, but I do remember a lot of the things that were going on in that episode. So if you remember things from that episode, don't be afraid to chime in if I miss them. So again,
No, I just watched it.
you just watched it again?
Yeah, I just watched it about a week ago too. So you're good.
All right. So let's see if I can remember enough of it to be able to. I mean, I know enough of it to talk about it, but let's see if I remember everything. So in the episode again, we jump forward to the Lord's Supper, the last supper that Jesus has at Passover on Holy Thursday. And this one sort of starts in, it seems, the middle of something. Um, there's a tension that's in the air right away at the beginning, and Peter sort of gives a signal to John, who is sitting next to Jesus, and we hear John ask Jesus, "Who is it?" Anyone who might not be familiar with what Jesus had basically just said, it that wasn't on video. It was that someone was going to betray him, and John is asking who that is, and Jesus says, just to John, it's whoever I share, dip this bread into the sauce and hand it to him. That's the one who will betray me. And he hands it to Judas, and between him and Judas, there's a clear indication that he knows what Judas is going to do, and he tells Judas to go and do it, to get it over with. And he leaves. The disciples think, oh, he's just going to give alms to the poor. He must have forgotten about doing it earlier in the day, so he's going to take care of that now. They don't understand what's going on, but John does. John does know what Jesus actually said to Judas. It all made sense to him. And that's really what the focus of that first part is all about Jesus talking about that. And now he ends it by talking about a new command, which he says, this certainly isn't a new command, but I'm asking you to fulfill this command in an entirely new way, a way that you're going to more fully understand by watching me keep this command. And that command is to love one another. And it's going to be beyond what the Jews were asked to do. Now he's going to be, look, you're going to have to you're going to have to love people even when they hate you, which is a hard thing to do. And then it jumps back in a time to when the all this is still going down. Jesus has decided he's not going to be preaching anymore. And so now he is just sort of praying and talking with his disciples, not really interacting with the people as much anymore. And he has a sit-down conversation with John again about some more Greek mythology. He talks about the story of Agamemnon and the Trojan War, and shows the similarities between what happened with Agamemnon and what happened with the judge Jephthah. Talking about the similarities between them, mainly focusing on the fact that Jephthah said he would sacrifice the first thing that came out of his house. It ended up being his daughter, and discussing what is going on. And John says, Jesus, I'm afraid that the people, the Jewish people who want to kill Jesus, that even the disciples themselves are going to end up in a very similar situation to what happens with Agamemnon. Agamemnon kills his daughter, his wife kills him, and then his son kills his mother. And then the fates torment and torture the son. And he's like, I'm afraid that what's about to happen is going to result in the same sort of thing that happened to that son. That we're going to be tormented by the fact that we're going to kill you. Yes, the disciples say, we have no part in the actual death of you, but I understand that we are a part of it, even if we are against it. So he's saying, and are we going to be left like this young man who has killed his mother because we're going to be riddled with guilt? How can I ask you for forgiveness if it hasn't happened yet, and it's still gonna happen, and I won't be able to ask you for that later on? And Jesus says, no, I've already forgiven you. Really showing this issue that John is really truly the only one of the disciples who truly understands what's about to happen, and is like, I am on this train now with you, Jesus, and it's going to happen, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. We can try as hard as we want, but in the end, you're going to die. Showing that he has an understanding of what's about to happen, not understanding necessarily why it's happening. Yeah. Then they move on with this, and now we are leaving behind any sort of semblance of anything biblical going on at this point. We have left it all behind, and really we're just seeing the disciples trying to grapple with what's going on with Jesus, especially Judas. Judas is trying to understand. He's not getting it. Jesus has basically just said to the leaders of their religion, hey, you're nothing. You are, in fact, the worst of the worst. We need to get rid of you guys entirely and destroy this temple. That's what it sounded like to the people. And so now he's trying to grapple, like, how do we fix this, Jesus? How do we keep them from killing you? That's what's exactly going to happen. You've turned all the people against you, and you're not really acting like our Messiah. Are you actually the Messiah? And so that's what he's dealing with. Jesus tries to explain it to him, saying, Judas, just bear with me. Your faith is weak. I get that. I know you're struggling to understand. Just trust me, and everything is going to be all right. Judas says, I don't get it. Jesus says, and that's your problem. You're trying too hard to find how you fit into this. Maybe I just want you. And that was sort of the end of their conversation. And then eventually, Jesus says, I want the women of our group to go to Bethany with us, and then they're going to stay behind. They are not going to come and join the disciples in Jerusalem for the Passover. It's just going to be the 12 disciples. He doesn't want anyone else there. Not because he feels that the women are in any way unworthy to be a part of this group, but rather because what's about to happen is not something he wants the women to have to endure. For his mother to watch him be arrested and put to death, he knows she's going to, but he's hoping that she will at least stay away from the worst of it. So that's why he's keeping them away. It's for their own safety and because he doesn't want them to see what's about to happen, though they know what's about to happen, what he's referring to. It's not dishonoring them in any way, but rather he's trying to honor them by protecting them and caring for them. And they give a sort of a Dayenu, if you've ever been, if you were at the Seder meal that we had this past spring, we said the Dayanus, it is enough, it would have been enough. And that's sort of what they do. They make their own based off their interactions with Jesus, which is interesting. And while all this is going on in the background, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and all the religious leaders are meeting together in the Sanhedrin, the 70. They're gathering together in order to talk about what they're going to do about Jesus. And they're calling for his death. Understandable, considering he's really been fighting against it, but some people have pointed out that there's a major issue, and that being Lazarus. Was Lazarus actually dead? Was he actually raised from the dead? And they're asking these questions, and people are saying, yes, he was. We have a proof of it, but well, we don't actually have proof that he was actually dead. It's just a matter of hearsay arguments. And so they say, well, the only thing we can do at this point, if we're going to put Jesus to death, we have to also put Lazarus to death. If Jesus really can raise people back from the dead, by killing Lazarus, we ensure that he is dead. And if Jesus raises him back, hey, then we can believe him. But until that point, we need to get rid of Lazarus, who is our biggest problem. He is going around telling people that he was raised from the dead. We have to stop that. And that's really...
That's such awful thinking.
Yeah, it is. But there is a sort of a logic to their madness. I mean, if you think about it today, what do people do if there is someone giving a different testimony than what is the one that they're trying to speak, one that they're trying to get out? They get rid of anyone else who might know the truth. Lazarus is a big one. They have to get rid of him. They have to hide him. They got to do something. You really can't just kidnap him, so killing him is the only thing that makes sense to them.
That sounds like any action-packed show.
Yep.
Where they get rid of the person who's going to tell.
Exactly. They got to keep them quiet. And so in order to do that, you got to put them to death. But that's really what happens in the episode. Can anyone think of anything else that happened in this episode that I didn't discuss that you want to be able to discuss at this point?
I might have missed it, but maybe you said it and I missed it. But Judas was talking with somebody in the scene. Who was that?
Judas talks with a lot of people. He talks with Peter about what are we going to do now with my purpose in my discipleship. What does Jesus want me to do? Am I supposed to be the one who fixes this sort of thing? He's trying to fit himself into Jesus' plan. And he tries to talk about that with Jesus as well. And both Peter and Jesus say the same thing. You might just have to just accept the fact that you're here because I just wanted you here. I don't have a specific purpose for you. There's not a reason that you're here. I just chose you. That's it. So he does talk to those two, really. But that's mainly it. Any other questions?
So this isn't the one where he's making the deal with Caiaphas?
Not yet. It ends when it's clear. So he has not yet left to go and do that.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Then the one I watched was the next one. My bad.
Episode 5. I'm sure that's what's going to happen next. I haven't watched it yet, but they haven't officially decided that they have to kill Jesus yet. They're still working out all those things. They haven't brought it to the high priest. And if you note, I do want to point this out. They talk about two different high priests. So we had Caiaphas, who was there present. He was there, and they were talking to him, trying to keep him out because they were doing a lot of business inside, and they didn't want him to be a part of that and implicate him for anything. And while they're doing that, they're also sweet talking him because they know that there's another one who could be put on this, and then it would maybe take the blame off of Caiaphas if something were to happen with Rome. And that was Ananias, who is technically the one who is supposed to be high priest. So I just a brief explanation as to why there are two high priests at this time. The way high priesthood worked was it was passed from father to son. So you would, if you were the high priest, your son would become high priest. That's the way it
I thought
worked.
Ananias was his father-in-law.
No.
Oh, okay.
Wait.
I thought that they kept making
Yeah, they keep-
jabs that he's only there because of who he married.
Yes, and that's really the point. That's the point I'm trying to make. Let me just look it up. I'm trying to remember if Ananias is his father-in-law or if Ananias is his brother-in-law. Blah, 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 blah. Mark real quick. Matthew. Finally, John. Let's see.
You'd think they would put the names in an index in a study Bible.
Well, this isn't a study Bible, so. Okay, yeah. So it is his father-in-law, Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was the high priest that year. The reason that that happened, because it's technically not supposed to happen until you die. You're high priest until your death. And it should have gone to Annas' son, but it didn't. And that's because when Rome came in and was taking things over, everyone was fine, sort of smoothed things over with the Jews in terms of religion. Because the Romans were very confused by the Jewish religion. How can you only worship one God? They were confused by that. And they actually called them atheists because they didn't believe in gods. Um, but then when they got in there, the Jews really riled everyone up, being led by the high priest Annas. And so the Roman people, the Roman rulers, when they normally take over a place, they put their own people in charge of the religions. But they let the Jews keep their stuff. They were like, okay, fine, whatever. But Annas disappointed the Romans, so what they did is they took that position away from him and gave it to his son-in-law, Caiaphas. So he was named high priest by the Romans. And the people went along with it, but they're like, but he's not really our high priest. Annas is actually the high priest. Caiaphas is not even supposed to be the high priest. And that's why in John it says that Caiaphas was the high priest that year. The Romans kept on changing it up on them. And that's why Caiaphas is currently the high priest. Just a little interesting historical facts about what was going on in the Jewish, in Jerusalem at that time for the Jews. Any other questions?
Nope.
All right. Well, then let's dig in. We're going to start by going again with what happens at on Passover and on Holy Thursday. We're going to look at Jesus talking about his betrayal and eventually giving the disciples his command. So we're going to read from John chapter 13, verses 21 to 35. After he had said this, Jesus was troubled in spirit and testified, "Very truly I tell you, one of you is going to betray me." His disciples stared at one another, at a loss to know which of them he meant. One of them, the disciple whom Jesus loved, was reclining next to him. Simon Peter motioned to this disciple and said, "Ask him which one he means." Leaning back against Jesus, he asked him, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is the one to whom I will give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish." Then, dipping the piece of bread, he gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. As soon as Judas took the bread, Satan entered into him. So Jesus told him, "What you are about to do, do quickly." But no one at the meal understood why Jesus said this to him. Since Judas was in charge of the money, some thought Jesus was telling him to buy what was needed for the festival or to give something to the poor. As soon as Judas had taken the bread, he went out, and it was night. And when he was gone, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself, and will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I am going, you cannot come. A new command I give you: love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." Right. So why do you think Jesus was troubled in spirit, even though he knew Judas's betrayal was part of God's plan?
Because he still loves everybody. I mean, God still wants all of us to be in heaven, and even though we won't, he still weeps over the ones who won't.
Well,
Yeah.
and it also shows his human side too,
Yeah.
having emotions.
hmm Yeah, imagine that you know how you're going to die, and it's at the hand of someone you love. And you know that time is close, is right at hand. Literally hours from now, Jesus is going to be betrayed by Judas. He's going to be pointed out and killed because of what Judas is about to do. And yeah, that would make one very troubled in spirit, because you're as we see later on, Jesus, he's like, if there's any other way, God, let's do it any other way. But if not, your will be done.
Well, and it's because of Judas's misunderstanding and his pride of thinking that the way Jesus's ministry needs to go needs to look the way he wants it to look.
Yep, that's definitely the way that the chosen is taking it. That Judas is trying to actually help Jesus in a way.
Oh, did the scriptures not word it that way? Is that creative licensing on your
It's
part?
it's unclear as to exactly what Judas's motivation is. It kind of comes out of the blue, where suddenly one day Judas decides, "Hey, I'm going to betray Jesus." And so some people think, okay, well, why doesn't he just leave Jesus's discipleship? Why does he continue to follow Jesus outside of being a sort of a spy? Some people think that since Judas had the understanding of an earthly king, he was thinking, oh, if I lead a chart, if I convince the people to go and attack Jesus, eventually he's going to bring up his soldiers, he's going to arm all of Jerusalem, and we're going to take it. And that's what he was expecting Jesus to do, to sort of jumpstart his messiahship. But when he sees that doesn't happen, that's why he kills himself. That's one way of understanding it. The other way to understand it is that, as we see here, as we'll see probably next week when we talk about Judas actually betraying Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, we'll see that, okay, well, we do know that he kind of was stealing from the money bag. It seems like he just was a greedy person and saw an opportunity to make money. by betraying Jesus. Let the cards fall wherever they may. But we don't know. We don't know what was going on in Judas's mind. All we know is that he betrays Jesus for 30
They,
pieces.
they did a nice job with the actor. He looks like how Judas may have looked.
Yep.
I don't know. His whole demeanor is very Judas like.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, yeah. I mean, I think it's actually um there's a famous painting of the Last Supper. I don't think it is Da Vinci's Last Supper. I think it's a different one. Uh, but they used real people to stand in so that he could have someone to paint. And he found someone who was perfect for Jesus. So he painted him as Jesus. He was the first one he painted to get him in the right perspective. And eventually, the only one left is Judas. And it's been years down the line, and he finds a guy, and he's like, "This is the perfect guy for Judas." So he asks him, "Hey, can I paint you into my painting as Judas?" And the guy goes, "Sure." So he paints him in, and then the guy starts weeping at the end. And he goes, "Why are you weeping?" He goes, "You probably don't remember me, but a few years ago, you painted me as Jesus." And he's just coming to a realization of how bad his life has become. That he used to be the perfect image of someone who looked like Jesus to now, oh, he's the perfect guy for Judas.
That is a really weird random fact.
Yeah, but it sort of fits in what you're talking about. He's got that look.
Uh-huh.
And
Totally.
when you think about it, technically we all have that look. And that's the point I was making. So why does Jesus identify his betrayer so subtly? And what does this reveal about his character? Why doesn't he make a big deal about it? I mean, he makes a big deal about there's one of you is going to betray me. And all of them ask each other, who is it? Who is it? Is it me? Is it me? Is it me?
Well, I mean, it has to be fulfilled, and he knows that if everybody knows, they're going to prevent him from doing it.
Yeah. They're going to try and stop him from doing it. So he's not going to tell them. And what does that
Which
reveal about Jesus?
that takes guts. That's wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And that's part of what we see. Jesus is willing to go through with this. Even though he knows the pain and suffering he's about to go through, he is not going to do anything to jeopardize it. What emotions might the other disciples have felt in this moment? And why do you think none of them stopped Judas?
Definitely a lot of anger, if for the ones that knew.
Yeah. And from this, it seems only one person knew, John.
Well, and then when did John find out? Because John didn't even stop him.
I know, and that's the thing. Is okay, how much did John actually know and understand? Because here we see, okay, John asks him, "Lord, who is it?" And Jesus replies, "It's the one to whom I give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish." And after dipping it, he gives it to Judas. So did John truly understand? Was John paying attention at this point? Or um, if he does know, he didn't react for some reason. So we don't know how he reacts. He doesn't do anything. Why didn't he stop him? Honestly, we don't know. We do know that the other disciples had no idea. They didn't know what was going on. They just went with it. Said, "Oh, he's going to go take care of some stuff." All right, so Jesus says, "Now the Son of Man is glorified." And this is after all the talk about betrayal and that sort of stuff. So how does that change how we view suffering and or betrayal in our own lives? Does it change anything?
I know it says we're supposed to rejoice in our suffering,
Mm-hmm.
and so I see a parallel with that.
Yep.
Our suffering forces us to rely on God, put our faith and trust in Him.
Yeah.
That glorifies Him.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. That's what Jesus even goes on to say. He says, now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. And so we see that connection there. Yep. So now Jesus says, a new command I give you, love one another. Why is love one another the new commandment, and what makes it new in this context? So why is the command, love one another, a new commandment?
Is it like because Jesus is about to show that love that he's talking about now officially?
Yes. It's a completely different form of love than what they are probably used to understanding. It's this, it goes along with what Jesus said earlier, take up your cross and follow me. That's the type of love Jesus is going to say you're going to have to do. Bear one another's burdens, not just your own. Help each other. Love one another. You see your enemy, love them.
Well, and is that also too because the Pharisees misunderstood that part? You know, they were so focused on the law and maintaining the law that they didn't have the compassion. He mentioned that
Yeah,
to love and help them. You know, he said you force them to do follow all these rules and then you just leave them there and don't help them with it.
yep, yep, exactly. So now, how would people recognize you as a follower of Jesus based on your love? What kind of love is Jesus calling us to show?
Brotherly love, or I would say like
Unconditional.
Yeah, yeah, both of those things, a brotherly love and unconditional love.
yeah, sorry. I thought you were talking about of the four different types of love, which one is it? That's why I answered it that way.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, the Philadelphia type love. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely the philia, the friendship love, but also this agape love, which is that undeserved love. All right, any questions about Jesus' betrayal in John chapter 13?
Mm-mm.
All right, so now we're going to jump way back in time to something that was only talked about in the episode, and that is from Judges chapter 11, the story of Jephthah, one of the judges. So I'm going to read that, and then we'll talk about it in context of the story itself, and then also in what it's talking about with Jesus. So Jephthah, the Gileadite, was a mighty warrior. His father was Gilead, his mother was a prostitute. Gilead's wife also bore him sons, and when they were grown up, they drove Jephthah away. You are not going to get any inheritance in our family, they said, because you are the son of another woman. So Jephthah fled from his brothers and settled in the land of Tob, where a gang of scoundrels gathered around him and followed him. Sometime later, when the Ammonites were fighting against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to get Jephthah from the land of Tob. Come, they said, be our commander so we can fight the Ammonites. Jephthah said to them, didn't you hate me and drive me from my father's house? Why do you come to me now when you're in trouble? The elders of Gilead said to him, nevertheless, we are turning to you now. Come with us to fight the Ammonites, and you will be head over all of us who live in Gilead. Jephthah answered, suppose you take me back to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gives them to me. Will I really be your head? The elders of Gilead replied, the Lord is our witness. We will certainly do as you say. So Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and commander over them. And he repeated all his words before the Lord in Mizpah. Then Jephthah sent messengers to the Ammonite king with the question, what do you have against me that you have attacked my country? The king of the Ammonites answered Jephthah's messenger, when Israel came up out of Egypt, they took away my land from the Arnon to the Jabbok, all the way to the Jordan. Now give it back peaceably. Jephthah sent back messengers to the Ammonite king, saying, this is what Jephthah says. Israel did not take the land of Moab or the land of the Ammonites. But when they came up out of Egypt, Israel went through the wilderness to the Red Sea and on to Kadesh. Then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, "Give us permission to go through your country." But the king of Edom would not listen. They also sent to the king of Moab, and he refused. So Israel stayed in Kadesh. Next, they traveled through the wilderness, skirted the lands of Edom and of Moab, passed through the eastern side of the country of Moab, and camped on the other side of the Arnon. They did not enter the territory of Moab, for the Arnon was its border. Then Israel sent message to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who ruled in Heshbon, and said to him, "Let us pass through your country to our own place." However, Sihon did not trust Israel to pass through his territory. He mustered all his troops and encamped at Jahaz and fought with Israel. Then the Lord, the God of Israel, gave Sihon and his whole army into Israel's hands, and they defeated them. Israel took over all the land of the Amorites who lived in that country, capturing all of it from Arnon to the Jabbok and from the desert to the Jordan. Now, since the Lord, the God of Israel, has driven the Amorites out before his people Israel, what right have you to take it over? Will you not take what your God Chemosh gives you? Likewise, whatever the Lord our God will give us, we will possess. Are you any better than Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he ever quarrel with Israel or fight with them? For 300 years, Israel occupied Heshbon, Aroer, the surrounding settlements, and all the towns along the Arnon. Why didn't you retake them during that time? I have not wronged you, but you are doing me wrong by waging war against me. Let the Lord, the judge, decide the dispute this day between the Israelites and the Ammonites. The king of Ammon, however, paid no attention to the message Jephthah sent him. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Japheth, and he crossed Gilead and Manasseh, and passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from there he advanced against the Ammonites. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord, "If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering." Then Jephthah went over to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gave them into his hands. He devastated 20 towns from Aroer to the vicinity of Minnith, as far as Abel Karamim. Thus Israel subdued Ammon. When Jephthah returned home to his home in Mizpah, who should come out to meet him but his daughter, dancing to the sound of timbrels. She was an only child. Except for her, he had neither son nor daughter. When he saw her, he tore his clothes and cried, "Oh no, my daughter! You have brought me down, and I am devastated. I have made a vow to the Lord that I cannot break." "My father," she replied, "you have given your word to the Lord. Do to me just as you promised, now that the Lord has avenged you of your enemies, the Ammonites. But grant me this one request," she said. "Give me 2 months to roam the hills and weep with my friends, because I will never marry." "You may go," he said, and he let her go for 2 months. And she and her friends went into the hills and wept because she would never marry. After the 2 months, she returned to her father. He did to her as he had vowed, and she was a virgin. From this comes the Israelite tradition that each year the young women of Israel go out for 4 days to commemorate the daughter of Japheth the Gileadite. Right.
Oh, I just hate that.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that so much.
All right, so Jephthah was rejected by his family, but became their leader in a time of crisis. What does this tell us about how God can use outcasts or unlikely people?
Everybody has a purpose, regardless of how mankind sees that person.
Yep.
So he's only an outcast to the fellow humans, not to God, obviously.
Yeah. Right. So Jephthah makes a vow to God that leads to a tragic outcome. What motivates people to make rash promises to God, and how can we guard against that?
Can you tell me where the vow again was? I'm trying to find it. And
So up here in verse 30 to 31. If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me, when I return in triumph from the Ammonites, will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering.
Oh, okay. So then he ends up sacrificing his daughter.
Yeah. That's the tragic outcome. So, what leads a person to make that sort of rash promise to God, and how can we guard against that?
Hmm.
I mean, we fully can because we're sinful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we tend to make promises we can't keep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are unfaithful people. We make promises that we cannot keep. But is there a way that we can keep from making rash ones? For instance, he
Think
could have
it
easily said, that comes out of my house, I will sacrifice. That would have
Yeah,
been
I mean, think
cool.
think it through before you think the words through before you speak them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to do that.
And I guess this really leads into the next question. How do you think God viewed Jephthah's vow? How do you think God viewed Jephthah's vow?
Maybe a little bit sad that he made such a rash vow.
Well, I don't know. It kind of sounds like, I mean, oh yeah, you want to go there? Okay, I'll challenge you. And then of course he inspires his daughter to be the one to come out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's almost like forcing his hand, maybe?
Yeah, and this really gets to the next question of, was it necessary for Jephthah to make that vow?
No.
No,
No.
but was it necessary for the daughter to be the one to come out and get killed?
Well,
Well,
anybody, I mean, even if it had been his son, it would have still been bad. So
yeah.
No matter what. But it had to be his daughter.
Well, we do have to answer a question about that last part,
yeah.
because there is an interpretation that can work um in regards to that.
Yeah, I guess I just don't understand why he would have made the vow to begin with,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
because it's almost like maybe what, because Jephthah doesn't know what the outcome is going to be and he doesn't trust the God is going to deliver them into his hands regardless. So he tries to, I don't know, tries to make him a deal. Like says, "Hey God, let's make a deal." I
yep,
don't
exactly. And that's really how we can also guard against that. Because notice that what Jephthah's doing. He's saying, God, I don't think I'm actually going to win this. So here's what I'm going to do. If you give them into my hands, I will sacrifice the first thing that comes out of my house. Did he need to do this? No. In the
Yeah.
same way, we need to just put our trust in God. Well, could he have said, Lord, if you are truly the God of Israel, as you have promised us, give us the victory, and we shall praise you.
Well, and even using the word if at the beginning of it, I mean, a lot of them do that. If you are truly the God, it's like, well, do you believe it or not? I mean, I guess I don't understand why they don't just say, since you are the God of Israel, we trust that you will fill in the blank.
Yep.
It's
And
weird.
that's again where we get back to the, okay, we're sinful people. We're going to have our struggles with doubt and that sort of thing. But in their defense with those types of vows where they make it in faith, where like, if you are where when you throw God's promises back at him, which is what God wants us to do, um, it's still showing trust in him, even if you have doubts, because you're like, okay, God, you're a God who keeps his promises. So if you do this as you have promised, we will praise you. We will give you thanks.
Well, and see, and even that seems arrogant for me as a human. It's like,
Well,
okay, God's already promised you that he's going to do X, Y, Z. And now you're saying, well, if you're sincere about your promise, then I'll hold up my end of the bargain. I mean, that just sounds sinful by itself.
and this is where you could say that, but then you would have to say God is sinful
No, 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 no. It's the idea
of throwing God's
it's
promises back
almost like
in his face
it's
and
like
saying,
it's
yeah,
like
but
the
God does
humans are
that himself.
challenging. They're challenging him.
Yeah, but God does that himself.
Well, that he has the right to do that. Humans
Yeah.
don't.
Well, I know, but the point, what God wants us to do when we throw his promises back at him is saying, look, God, I am trusting in your promises. I'm putting everything at your feet. I'm saying, look, Lord, you have promised me this. Keep your word. Do this. And that's what God wants us to do, because that's not saying, hey, God, I'll make a deal with you. If you keep your end of the bargain, I'll keep my end of the bargain, because there is no other end of the bargain. God's God's relationship with us is now just completely one-sided. Us throwing his promises back at him and saying, look, God, you promised all these things to your people, and we're just asking you to keep these promises. We want to stay in line with your will, Lord, so help us by keeping this promise. It's
No.
not we are now the ones dealing with God, saying, God, you got to do this for me, and I'll do this for you. It's, God, you have promised these things, and we're going to throw our trust on these promises, remind you of these, and trust that you're going to deal with it.
And well, and I guess I get what you're saying. I guess though it's
There is still that
arrogant
risk.
in my mind for them to actually assume that God would have forgotten in the first place. It's like, this was the promise that you gave us, Lord. Don't forget.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know. That also is a little bold in my opinion, but okay.
yeah. But that's also how God wants us to pray. He wants us to pray boldly.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, I mean disrespectful. It sounded very disrespectful.
No, and that's not the intent. When the way you should pray it, it should be, Lord, here are the promises you have given to me. I am putting my trust that you're going to keep these promises, and so that's what I'm asking you to do. That's my whole prayer is summed up in all the promises you have made, and I'm handing them back to you to say, please keep your promise, because that's what every prayer is when you really think about it. God has said, I'm going to care for every single one of your needs. So what happens?
Right.
You go, here, God, you said you're going to take care of all my needs. Here are all my needs.
Yeah, but what we think is a need, he's not going to necessarily, you don't need, like, we might think I need whatever, and he's like, no, you don't need that. So
He may
what
not
we think
answer
of
it in the same way that we expect him to, but he is always going to take care of our needs in some way.
yes, are the real needs. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm
It's
getting at, is that we're going to present them all to God and say, you promised you were going to take care of our needs. Take care of our needs.
okay. Yeah. As long as the people are recognizing that, when they say I need a new car, well, God's up there going, no, that's not what you
That's
need.
not what
It's
the
like,
needs I'm talking about, but
yeah, exactly. Okay.
I
Yeah.
disagree. Everyone needs a new car.
Oh, well.
all right. So what does this story teach us about the difference between faith and superstition? Kind of something we've already been talking about.
Faith relies on God, whereas superstition, I think, kind of relies on us, maybe. Like,
A
um,
series of just things that we do. Okay. Well, if I'm a good person, God will give me what I want. So God, if you help us win, I will offer a sacrifice to you. I will do this. Sort of doing this whole, if I rub the good luck charm in just the right way, all things will go my way.
mhm.
Yeah. All right. So do you think Jephthah had other options after making the vow? And what does this story reveal about interpreting scripture and God's will responsibly?
Options.
So let's talk about, are there any other options? I'm going to tell you the answer. The answer is yes, there is. So I'm going to talk about that just a little bit. So let's look back at what Jephthah's vow is. So if you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me, when I return in triumph from the Ammonites, will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. So, what is the most obvious understanding of what Jephthah is planning on doing?
Sacrificing the first thing that comes out.
Yes. And burnt offering means what exactly is the type of sacrifice he's doing? Let's make sure we understand. What is a burnt offering?
Lighting something on fire.
Yes. A complete sacrifice. Not a single bit of the sacrifice is taken away from God.
Mhm.
The way that sacrifice worked in the Jewish tradition was that a lot of sacrifices, you would cut open the meat and you would cut up the meat, and some of it would be given to the priest. And that was their payment. That's how you paid the priest. Is you bring in your animals, they would take a bit of the sacrifice, and that would be their food. That's how God was was able to give the Israelites, the Jewish, the Levites. That's how they were paid and how they received their food was through the sacrifices. They received parts of it. Burnt offering, they didn't get to any of it. It was all given completely to God. So that's one interpretation of this. But there's a small word in there that if you wiggle it around just a little bit, you don't even have to do much, but there is a possible secondary understanding of this. Because what is the number one thing that God has told the Israelites? Look, you can sacrifice a lot of things to me, but there's one thing you're not allowed to sacrifice to me. What is that one thing?
A virgin?
Close. It's related to that. Who does he end up saying that he has to sacrifice?
His daughter.
Your children. You can't sacrifice your children to me. I am not like the other gods who demands human sacrifices.
Okay.
You will not sacrifice another human being to me. So obviously this is a problem.
Is the fact that God allowed for him to sacrifice his daughter kind of like God saying, or kind of like God allowing for something that's he said no to? I don't know how to explain it.
And this is, I mean, that's the problem people are having, because it sounds a lot like when he brought the daughter out and was like, well, Jephthah, you're going to keep your vow to me. You vowed whatever it was, you were going to sacrifice it. There's no getting around this, Jephthah. You have to sacrifice your daughter to me as a burnt offering. And the small word that does allow for a little wiggle room is how you understand the word as.
As?
Yes. So I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering.
So maybe something that represents her or something of hers?
No,
No.
I will, because remember, what is a burnt offering? It's giving something completely to God. No longer my own. I've given
Oh,
everything.
so like she'll remain unmarried.
She will be given to the Lord. She will serve the Lord in whatever way God has chosen. I will give her as a sacrifice to God.
Because
As
he doesn't die.
that's one impossible interpretation of this.
But then
Yeah.
why would you use the word burnt?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
The word burnt offering, the word in Hebrew does not actually mean burnt offering. It's
No.
we translate it. The word we translate as burnt offering is literally just a complete sacrifice.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the idea is not that, oh, it's necessary that you have to burn it. That's the way the English translates it, because that's typically how it's used. When you give a burnt offering, it is you're burning the thing entirely. That's what happens with Elijah on Mount Carmel. When he gives that offering, it is a burnt offering. Every part of it is given to God. No single part of it is left for anyone else. And so, with that understanding of the understanding that it is a complete offering to God, one way you could understand this is that the reason his daughter mourned the fact that she would never be married is not because she's going to die at the end of this, but because she's going to be given to the Lord entirely. in which
Mhm.
case she's not going to marry, period.
Mhm.
Because everything is now in the hands of the Lord instead of in the hands of her father.
And that does explain her reaction because when I read that the first time, I was like, she's worried that she's never going to marry, and in actuality, she's going to die. I would have thought she would have been worried about her life.
Yeah, well, it does show also like, okay, maybe she's it. If anything, either way, you could see her reaction as either one, I think.
Really?
I think what the main thing it hits on is often what God does with people like Jephthah. When they are very sinful people, they will contrast them with a very faithful person.
Mm.
In which case, you could see this and read Jephthah's daughter as, wow, she loves God more than Jephthah does. She's
Mhm.
like,
It
look,
says do
you
more.
messed up, Dad, but you can't break a vow to God.
Yeah.
You can't break this vow. You have given your word to the Lord. You can't do that. You have to obey what you have said. That's
She does seem very good about it. I mean, obviously we don't get every detail, but that's
it's kind of like with the whole Isaac situation with Abraham. Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born to him. He was not a young man when he took Isaac up the mountain, and yet we don't hear of Isaac really back talking Abraham or fighting Abraham to not tie him up and offer him as a sacrifice to God. So it's quite possible. What I think probably is what happened is sort of a mixture of the two. I think God probably did the same thing he did for Isaac, but he did demand that the daughter be given to the Jewish leaders, to the tabernacle, to be a servant in his house. That Jephthah got all the way up to the point where he was going to sacrifice his daughter, and then God stopped it from happening because God would not have allowed it to happen. But I think the way it's written, it was very clear that he was going to offer her as a sacrifice, but God would not allow that to happen.
And out of curiosity, just for the linguistic side of things, when they recognize, they meaning the people who sit and make sure that the translations are accurate, when they come across and recognize that the Hebrew word doesn't necessarily mean fire, and instead it means total, why don't they change it that like why don't they, because that changes the meaning completely.
Yes, the reason why they don't change it from burnt offering to a complete offering is more because of the context of when it's used. It's only in the Bible, it's only ever used in context of you are burning the entire thing. It is always portrayed in that way. It's never portrayed in any other way. Outside the Bible, it's the same sort of thing. A lot of the time, it's like this. But outside of the Bible, you also get more context outside of it, and it does allow for it to just be considered a complete offering. It's not necessitating the use of fire.
Well, and if you're a person that's reading through it and you don't remember the vow that God says that he won't, that you can't sacrifice your children, and so you're not putting all the dots, you're not connecting the dots. And then of course with her reaction where
Yep.
she's only worried that she's not going to marry, not that she's going to be killed. So
Mhm.
that does lead one to think that you're right, that it's more of like a total complete, not just kill. I guess that the context would say that it's correct the other way.
But that's the problem. The context actually doesn't. There's nothing in here that says that he just gave her to the temple.
Mm.
Her words work just as well one way or the other. If she knows, okay, he's going to actually offer me as a burnt offering. I am going to be burned
I think I'd
completely.
and I think she was saying, Pastor, that she disagrees with that.
Yes, and that's fine. There
Oh,
are there
no, no, yeah, no, I'm not negating what's in the Bible. I guess what I'm saying is, I think if she actually thought she was going to be burned at the stake,
why
she would,
not say, and I will sacrifice it as a complete offering to the Lord?
yeah,
Why did they still use burnt offering?
right.
And that's because what people are doing here with that understanding is not translating what he actually meant. What people are doing is they're giving him some wiggle room in his interpretation of it. More than likely, he actually did mean burnt offering. I will completely burn it. More than likely, that's what Jephthah was thinking. He was thinking so small that God had to open up his mind to like, are you really certain that that's what you wanted to do? Because you just said whatever it was. Whatever came out of my house first. And once he saw his daughter, you see the whoa. Because if he said like, oh, it could be any other way. It could be I give her to the temple. It's like, yeah, no, that's not a big deal. But he goes,
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
he's mourning the fact I have made a vow and I cannot break this.
Yeah, that he didn't think it through. I see what you're saying now. Okay, my bad.
Jephthah probably actually meant burnt offering.
Mhm.
But people who say that God may have given him the wiggle room afterwards to
Gotcha.
say, I'm just going to give her as if I gave her as a burnt offering. I'm going to completely give her to the Lord. I have nothing more to do with my own daughter.
And that's because he can't violate his own promise of not. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, so it says, and he did as he had vowed. And that's where people are like, okay, God isn't really going to accept a burnt offering of a human being. Did God step in and sort of go, I'm going to give you a little wiggle room here. You can just give your daughter completely to me. She now belongs to me, which is why she's never going to marry, because only your father can do that, and she no longer has a father.
Mm-hmm.
She belongs completely to God. So only God can give her away in marriage, and he's not going to do that, is what they understand it to be. That's why women go out every year for 4 days to mourn the fact that this daughter was not allowed to be married because she was given completely to God.
Is that a certain time of year or a certain celebration, like a festival?
It comes the Israelite tradition that each year the young women of Israel go out for 4 days to commemorate the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite.
Yeah, I just didn't know if they had a name for that time of year. So that's all.
So if it might just be, like because it mentions she was a virgin,
Yeah.
which could just simply mean that she could be at any age really is when this girl is. You could understand it as okay, each year the women that have now reached the age of puberty where they can get married for 4 days go out into the wilderness to mourn this one woman who did not receive that blessing.
Interesting.
So we don't know. It doesn't give any more information about it. I've never read anything more beyond that, whether it's a certain time of year or if it's simply just, hey, when a girl hits puberty, she needs to go out and do this tradition.
Oh, so you're saying like they probably don't still practice that then?
Not today, no.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But it's possible that that's what it's referring to. Is that
Right.
we don't know. It doesn't. We don't have a whole lot of information. Jewish people don't really practice this anymore, and doesn't seem like it was a very common thing anymore. Or even by Jesus' day, we don't hear about any of the women leaving in order to go and mourn for Jephthah's daughter. Any questions about that?
Not anymore. Thanks for all the clarification.
Yep. No, no problem. All right.
Super confusing.
Huh?
I said super confusing.
Yes. Yes, it is. Simply because we don't really get a satisfying ending to it. It just sort of says, and he did as he had vowed. Well, are we saying that it was that he gave her as an actual burnt offering, or did God give him that wiggle room? Did God step in like he did with Isaac? We don't know. But Jephthah is not looked on as a good judge because of the vow he made. It was a rash vow, and that's all he is known for. You don't want to be like him. All right,
So don't name your kid Jephthah.
nope. Nope. All right, so our next reading is from John chapter 12, verses 9 to 11. So you see that the book of John we started in chapter 13 and now we're in chapter 12. We're running out of time for Jesus. And soon the episodes are going to be in line. Everything's going to just be one thing. Now in chapter 12, we have this from verses 9 to 11. Meanwhile, a large crowd of Jews found out that Jesus was there and came not only because of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests made plans to kill Lazarus as well, for on account of him, many of the Jews were going over to Jesus and believing in him. So why do you think the chief priests wanted to kill Lazarus, someone who had already died and been raised?
Uh, so that people who hadn't seen him raised yet, like maybe they could say that he had never actually been raised, he actually was still dead, or it could just be because if people see Lazarus, then they're gonna know about the story, hear about the story, and that will cause them to believe more, or
Yep.
likely to believe.
Yep. And in their mind, what's happening here is blasphemous. They aren't understanding it at all, what Jesus is and who Jesus is. That's the major issue. So, what does the desire to silence Lazarus say about the threat Jesus posed, not just in word, but in action?
I uh I think that they were worried that he was going to destroy their power.
Mm-hmm. Now they were going to lose everything.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's these ones, but we're running low on time here, I think. Yeah, we're already at 8:16. So I'm going to skip over some of these, find some that might be interesting still to talk about. If you want to read through the rest of these questions on your own time,
Yeah.
it's fine. So I'm going to get really into this one because this is why Jeff is even brought up, is the connection with Agamemnon. So in Agamemnon, he made the same sort of vow, specifically about his daughter, that he offers his daughter as a sacrifice, and then his wife kills him, and then Agamemnon's son kills his own mother, sort of getting each one getting vengeance on the one before. And then the son is tormented by the fates, these deities of sorts, these otherworldly beings who sort of were the ones who decided the end of someone's life. So what do the stories of Jephthah and Agamemnon have in common?
I'm trying to remember the story of Agamemnon.
Uh, it's basically what I just told you.
Yeah.
Just sacrifice their daughters.
Kind of both rash.
Yes. And now this connects with what John is saying to Jesus. They're the ones talking about both of those stories. Why does one of the disciples say that all of Israel, including themselves, is to blame for what's going to happen to Jesus?
Well, because we're all sinners.
Yeah. We're all sinners. We're all going to do rash things. And that's what John is really worried about. Are we doing something rash here? Are we rushing into something that we shouldn't be forgiven for? Even us, the disciples, the ones whom you love, the ones who don't want you to die, I feel that we're driving you into that direction. And so how is Jesus' choice to die different from the sacrifices made in those earlier stories?
Well, Jesus is sacrificing himself, whereas the other stories, they're sacrificing someone else.
Yeah. Yep.
And he's willingly doing it.
That's the other main thing, is that it's not only he's sacrificing himself, he's willing to do it. Yep. All right. So now this is sort of connecting all of this together. So, what kind of love does Jesus show by giving the commandment to love one another just after announcing his betrayal?
Absolutely unconditional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the agape love.
That's the agape love, this unconditional grace. All right. Any other questions about anything we've talked about?
Nope.
Well, that is all that I have for this evening. Next week, we'll talk about episode 5. Um, we'll see what happens in that episode next week, possibly. Depends on when I get back from dip netting. Do you think we'll be back, Emma?
You guys are going dip netting?
Yep.
Hopefully.
Oh, where are you going?
Down in
Email.
Oh, we've been here 8 years. We've still never gone dip netting.
Oh, guys, you get
It's a
free
lot of
salmon,
fun.
man.
I know, but we don't have any of this stuff, and I have no idea what to do or where to go.
Yep. Yeah, well, I mean, you just need a big old net.
Yeah.
You should come with us.
Oh, then you also need the all the equipment and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the waiters. I mean, you can do like just boots, but it's really way better to have a full body waiter.
yeah, we don't have all that. Plus, it's the middle of the week, so we wouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, we would have well, I don't know. We'll get around to it one day.
Yeah, so
Good luck.
actually
Have fun. I hope you guys have fun. Get lots of
so
fish.
so that's next Wednesday, right? So I think Thursday or Friday, I'd have to reschedule for Tristan's lesson if possible.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah, we can talk about it later.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, have a good night.
Have a
Yeah.
good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, where's the